Hi, are you an author in the middle of self-publishing your next book? Somewhere along the process, you've probably heard about creating an audiobook. You've been encouraged to make an audiobook. You know friends who've made the investment in creating an audiobook, but you can't bring yourself to get started because getting into the technical weeds just seems too daunting. But what if we could take that all away? What if we could remove 90% of the technical barriers, so all you would have to do is show up to the microphone and record? Or maybe you don't want to record your own audiobook. That's totally fine too. We have an experienced team of professional narrators that would love to audition for your audiobook. Our Done For You service guarantees that you will have a professionally produced audiobook ready for commercial release. If you're ready to get started today, please click the link below and schedule a free call. We can't wait to hear from you and to get started on your project.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement Podcast. I am author Stephen Urias. With me, as always, is my best friend, publisher, and author Susan Gabriel. Susan, how's it going?
Hi, it's going very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a fantastic week. There's been a lot of good things that have happened. Before we move forward, as always, we are sponsored by Soul Shine. Sponsored by Soul Sunshine. Be sure to visit us at soulsunshine.com. If you are a dreamer and you want to be published, come check us out. Any big news from this week, Susan?
Is that a leading question?
Yeah, of course it's a leading question.
Okay, well, I have a very interesting meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I'll be speaking with my movie producer and screenwriter, and we will be talking about the script for the miniseries that is planning to be. It's in the planning stages right now. And I don't know how long, I've never made a movie before, so I don't know how long it takes, but it has been moving forward. So I'm really pleased about that. And after tomorrow, I guess I'll know more. But the next stage, she's the screenwriter has written what they call an outline, which outlines 8 episodes of this movie as a miniseries, like maybe 40 minutes or something per episode. And then her next step is to write this screenplay for the pilot. And
That's awesome.
Then, yeah, I know. Then they take that around and find out if somebody wants to actually turn it into a movie. But
It's
my
exciting.
producer has and she has some experience. It's not like she's just a nobody. She already has connections. So I have a lot of hope for it to turn into an actual movie. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be really a fun experience. Something certainly different than I've never done before.
I agree. I'm looking forward to everything that's coming from it. It's been exciting news. It's been an awesome new year. Speaking of New Year's, we have a new guest coming on today. Her name is Anissa Zucker. She is the author of the book Rainbow Wings, and she is involved in a lot of different organizations and very cool things. So without further ado, let's bring her onto the stage. Anissa, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
Doing well.
Hi.
Welcome to Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement Podcast. Before we go any further, I know we have a lot to talk about, but I want you to take a few moments to just introduce yourself to our viewers and let us know more about you.
Sure, my name is Anissa Zucker, and I have a podcast that I started during the pandemic in 2020 because I was very bored and I wanted people to talk to. And I didn't even know it was called a podcast. I just was casually talking to friends, and it sort of morphed into that with an online community, a very small, intimate community that got a little bigger over the years, but primarily it's still pretty small. And we like it that way. It's a beautiful thing. But we really just started diving into scripture in 2020, and then it just morphed into this. I have a passion for what I do for a living is work with special needs, special education. I'm an educator. I have my master's degree in literacy, and I also have a specialization in drug and alcohol counseling and developmental psychology. So I just have a lot going on in this brain. But at the same time, it's hard to manage my own brain, like a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is neurotypical versus neurodivergent brains. And that's been my passion. I didn't realize it's been my passion probably my whole life, but I'm realizing it now, getting a late diagnosis of it was actually ADHD. I did find out from my mother that I was diagnosed when I was 4, but she ignored it and never told me.
Wow.
So I basically got a late diagnosis. I'm 44 years old, just diving into this and learning more about it, what it is and what it isn't. It was very important because for a long time, this has just been like 10 years ago is when I found out, and I didn't want to tell anybody. This was like saying you had a disease that was it was almost as bad as telling people that I had an addiction problem, because I had that too. And I had so much fear. I didn't want to tell anybody all my problems. Now I'm going live telling them on national television or whatever, YouTube. But it's because this is what the Lord has called me to do. And really, I just want to encourage others that there's no shame in whatever you're going through. It eventually becomes your past, and Jesus is there with you the whole time, whether you know it or not. His light is shining in you and through you.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a process. I'm also married, and I have a child. Her name is Melody. We have a child, Melody, and 2 children that we're watching right now on the weekends. Lily and Georgie. We love them very much. They're my cousin's kids, but my cousin passed away, and we're watching the girls while their dad works at a night job, so we're helping out that. And it's been just like such a life-giving experience to be able to, what a blessing, to take on challenge at times, 2 other kids in the household. It makes it more challenging sometimes, but really it's a blessing. So.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
You used the term there, neurotypical versus neurodivergent. What is neurodivergent?
Oh, good question. So neurodivergent, it's just a big old fancy word for it's not a medical term. It's a term that was created to distinguish between people that have some sort of processing disorders. It's debatable whether it's a disorder or not. That's a whole nother, I'll get into that a little later, but someone who has some sort of diagnosis, whether it's PTSD, whether it's bipolar, what's the other one? Borderline, I think.
Borderline personality
Yeah,
disorder?
I'm trying to think of all the different disorders can be classified into neurodivergent. For me, I focus in my channel on ADHD and a little bit on autism, because that's my specialty area. I don't know much about the other disorder. Well, I want to call them disorders. I don't like the word because Jesus doesn't like the word. I don't like labels. We're all healed. If only we knew, our potential, right? What we really are in Christ, who we really are meant to be and shine. But on the other end, we don't have to go around thinking everyone needs healing, when in fact, this is how God made them, exactly as they are, is perfect. So I love sharing that. Like, we are the voice for the autistic community. Because a lot of the times people will say, oh, that person's, doesn't have a thought or something. I'm like, no, they have lots of thoughts. They just articulate it differently.
Couldn't we call it, instead of a disorder, just a difference? I mean, we're just talking differences, right?
Yes, you're
good.
onto it. You got it. You know it. Yeah. So what I was going to lead to say, jumps the gun for me, but was that it's not, in my opinion, it's not a disorder, it's a difference. So I have a shirt that actually says, I have ADHD or something like that. ADHD, it's a difference, not a disability. My brain just works differently, and we process information differently. And this goes, I think you can go with basically any person in the world. Everyone's brain works differently, right? I even stray from using the terminology neurodivergent, neurotypical, because there you go, making another, compare your, what's the word? Like separation. You're making it a separation between our fellow man, and you don't want to cause anyone to stumble, and feel, oh, well, I'm not a neurotypical, or I'm not a neurodivergent. I don't know if I can get anything out of this message. Oh, this message is really for everyone. The thing that I've learned is basically to accept it's sort of like have you ever heard the serenity prayer? Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can change.
Of course.
And give me the courage to change the things I can, but the wisdom to know the difference, right? So it's all about recognizing that gemstone within you, the pearl of great price that Jesus placed in everyone. Now, the way we go about finding it is different. Everyone has their different experience. That's why even in the Western, I'm not crazy about Western evangelicals, at this time, because I'll say something and I might offend someone. I hope I don't. But I do think sometimes people in the Western Christianity, on our side anyways, will be like going to someone like their Bibles and just beating them over the head with it. Gotta do this, gotta do that, and that's what the Pharisees did, right? And so we really, as Christians, I think, stray away from that and just really meeting people where they're at exactly, because people have different ways of processing information, and for that reason, they might see Jesus differently too, right? So we need to kind of I know I needed to wake up from that religious mindset. And once I got free from that, I just saw things in a different way. But to go back, because I'm very all over the place, and I'm sorry, I'll finish up with this. The neurotypical is I looked it up actually online, so I get the right thing. Neurotypical just basically is a word for someone who has a normal brain that you can handle life's challenges, like with your amount of stress. It's like a normal brain processing. Like there's nothing abnormal about their brain. And when you're in abnormal psychology class, and they talk about abnormal psych. Abnormal psych is basically anybody who has an abnormal brain. So that just means that the brain doesn't process information the same as this other person. Now, the majority of the people are neurotypical, but the more I get to know people and meet people, I think, I don't know, there might be a lot of neurodivergents out there. Because, it's really, I think it's changing a little bit, and the lines are very blurry right now. Like, who's a neurotypical, who's a neurodivergent. It's debatable. I like I said, I don't like the term. I'm not crazy about it, but it's the only way I can explain, what I'm talking about. It's like the reason I don't like talking about ADHD is because I don't like the attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I tell people all the time on my podcast, I don't like the 2 Ds. I don't think it's a disability. I don't think it's a disorder, but we need to talk about what it is, because it does exist. It is a real thing. I had a brain scan. It shows up on the brain scan. There is a difference in the brain. So just sort of bringing light to that.
Yeah. Using the terminology neurotypical and then sort of the opposite, neurodivergent, it makes it sound like there are people who are typical and they are normal, and then the people who aren't that way, there's something wrong with them. And I don't like to think of it, again, I don't like to think of that, have it in that way. Again, they're just different, and we're all different, and God made us all that way. And that's how he wants us, obviously, because he made us this way. And I think one reason he did that was so that we would learn how to get along with people who are not like us, how to get along with all the different personalities. I majored in psychology, so you're talking right up my alley, and I've given it all a lot of thought too. I'm very interested in personality. That's the area of psychology I really enjoy reading about, and of course, there's a wide variety of people, personalities. So sometimes I think maybe it's there's a blurry line between neurodivergence and just a personality difference. So yeah, don't know.
True.
But I think we should just enjoy each other, but still understand that some differences need some additional assistance so that they can fit in better, let's say, and into society. There are certain things that there's kind of a need. Society has a need for a certain amount of order.
Yeah. And that's, I think, in the autistic community, what was it? She said, Graver, I think it's Graver, said she wanted to change it from instead of autism awareness, they were going to change it to autism acceptance. Semantics to me, but hey.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, exactly what you were saying, because you have to, if you're keeping it in the back of your mind, like when we have conversations with someone, you just never know like what kind of neurological differences they might have. So to be careful not to make assumptions about people, especially I'm noticing like in some of the online Christian communities, like you'll talk to someone, get to know them, and then like something changes, there'll be like a shift, and they're gonna make, or this also happens in text messages. Oh my gosh, they're gonna sometimes people make an assumption about what your heart is saying, and especially in text. Oh my gosh, like I'm very literal, so I'll just say things. I could be blunt, and people sometimes get offended by me. Like I could be offensive, and I'm not trying to be at all. Like my heart is like to help and encourage, and hey, if I notice something, I'm gonna say it because I noticed it, and I want to help you, in general. But people don't always receive it, like they and that goes the other way too. Like who knows what that person might have thought about me, and so it's a very, very blurry line. So that's why I think it's so important to talk in person and on Zoom. Like this is pretty good because we can at least see each other and like see a little bit, but on text messages it can get really quick. We all experience that.
Right. You can really lose the whole meaning of the conversation and the demeanor of the other person. You can't tell with a text message. So yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. But it's amazing what you're saying, is because we do think in language. I mean, with language, it becomes that point where if you change the name of something, it may change the way people feel about it. Take, for instance, post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder has been around for a very long time. And when scientists started researching it, they called it shell shock. Right there, shell shock.
Yeah.
And then same condition, they moved forward to the Second World War, and it became battle fatigue. And a little further along into the Vietnam War, it became operational exhaustion. And then during the Gulf War, it became post-traumatic stress disorder. So when you see that evolution in language from shell shock to post-traumatic stress disorder, it changes the way people feel about it. I think, though, in thinking in language, that if you keep it at shell shock, then maybe people will be more in tune to say, maybe we need to take a look at this a little bit more. Maybe we need to help understand it a little bit more. I love the idea that you are taking this and learning more knowledge on it and bringing that knowledge out. No worries.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Hold on a sec.
Okay, no problem.
Part of those moments you can never really plan, huh?
Yeah, that's
Dogs have.
okay. It makes it real.
Oh, absolutely,
It's
absolutely,
real. Yeah.
absolutely. Animals are a part of our lives. So with animals being
Yep.
part of our lives, then you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna have those moments of spontaneity,
Yeah.
I suppose.
When Darth Vader jumps on your lap and starts wanting attention.
Yeah. There's nothing I can do about that, but just give them a little bit of attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep my door shut. My dogs are out in the other room. But that doesn't mean they're not going to be barking at any point as a possibility.
And
Yeah.
animals run on their own time, they run on their own schedule, but
Yeah, they do.
they
But
are a part of our life.
they are, and they really enrich. I think they enrich a life too. I think they're really good. I think they're good for kids and good for people, as long as they're good animals.
I agree.
And I used to be a dog trainer, so I'm big on dogs.
I haven't had a lot of dogs in my life, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Cats. I've always had cats, but not a whole lot of dogs.
I
like
haven't
other
had a lot of
people's dogs,
cats.
though.
Had a couple, not a lot.
I like other people's dogs.
You like what?
Other people's dogs.
Oh, yeah. OPD, other people's dogs.
Exactly. If I'm walking out and somebody's walking their dog, I'll pet their dog. I'll
Yeah.
say they're cute. Be like, hi, dog. How are you? But
Yeah.
Okay, there, that's probably better. Okay, sorry.
No worries. No worries.
Let's see.
Thanks for your patience there. Yeah, didn't know if
Yeah.
you were gonna freak out. There's nothing. I even checked. There's nobody out there. I don't know what she's barking at.
Maybe. Yeah. Does she hear us? You're using earbuds. She can't hear us, right?
No. I mean, I don't know what she's barking at.
She might. If she's got really good hearing, she might be able to hear us talking, and maybe
Yeah.
she thinks that's somebody out there and outside.
Yeah, she's actually, that leads me to a topic of emotional support pet. She's my emotional support pet.
Uh-huh. I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It just means I can get her into places if I need to take her. If it's a hot day and I need to take her inside, I can take
Yeah.
her inside.
It's
That's
amazing
good.
how animals have come to be a part of our lives and how emotional regulatory for us they have become.
Oh yeah.
It's when you look at the history of things, dogs were always meant to just be protective, but then at some point in time, they became part of the family. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think nowadays there are dogs that are protective, but I think majority of people's dogs are there for comfort and joy
Mm-hmm.
and happiness, and they'll bark when it needs to be barked, but for the most part, they're family members who are there to chill on the couch with us.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Dogs have evolved over the years, many years from way, way back to now. They have evolved. Their brains have changed so that they are more in tune with understanding humans. And I found that really interesting, that they've adapted to that. They've become, the natural pet for people because they're now adapted for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. We love
Yep.
our animals.
We definitely do. We definitely do. So, through all of your journeys, and I know you've written a lot of books, there have come times, I'm sure you had a low point in your life. What was the lowest point in your life, and how did you recover?
So probably the lowest point in my life was it's probably has to do with a certain substance. I was in the north end of Hartford, and anyone in Connecticut knows what that means. I was in a building, an apartment. I didn't know where I was. And I didn't know anyone I was with. It was pretty bad. And I just remember like feeling so entangled into this world of darkness that I was never going to get out. This was my destiny, just doom and gloom forever. And it was very, very traumatic, that's for sure. And and this is what led me to like start writing my book, the book I haven't written yet, but I've written, but it's not finished yet. It keeps going. It's long. It's called Trusting the Process: From Identity Crisis to Identity in Christ. Because I really didn't know who I was. I literally was trying to find God like crazy in all different ways, shapes, and forms, like through even like acid and smoking a lot of pot, whatever. Even Buddhism, I got really into Buddhism. And when I finally did get sober from all that, toxic, the down point was very down. I'm not going to get into like the doom and gloom of it, but it was addiction. It was, there was rape. It was a very, very low point. And it was like almost like I was a different person back then. I really believe I was saved by the light of Christ. An extreme born again experience, but didn't happen like overnight like that. It took a couple different encounters here and there. But I wrote this book, Fearless Expressions. I think I was 2 years into my sobriety, and it's all about the process, like sort of like the darkness of addiction and what it can do to people and where your mind is. And then towards the end of it, it goes into like more of the solution. And what is interesting about this book is I wrote it with this picture. That's a picture of me, but you can't see my face. I was in fear of publishing it with my name on it. So I put this pen name so that my Buddhist monk friend gave me, called Bo Yenwa, which is like, it just means like purple light or something like that. And but later, when I became a Christian, I rewrote the book in a different light, through the light of Christ. And the book has some edits. I still have all the dark stuff in there, but at the end, I put a few more poems about Christ. And yeah, it's really special to me just to know, like, where I've been and being able to share it. I wouldn't be able to share this if it wasn't for Christ and what he's done, because I was always worried what people think and people pleaser to the 10th degree, especially after years of addiction. I just was always trying to like catch up to the rest of the world and trying to prove myself, and always had that fear in the back of my head that something's gonna get you, someone's gonna notice, that imposter syndrome. And it was just very present in my life until I had a deliverance encounter by myself. I didn't go to any church. I just had it in my bed. Just one time I had this crazy experience, and I actually had to talk to someone about it. I had no idea what was going on. But I talked to a Christian, and she's like, "Oh, it sounds like you just got delivered." I'm like, "Oh, what does that mean? Did I have a demon?" And they were just like, "No, it's complicated." And they kind of explained to me like what it was, and how people think different things about what it is. But basically, you should start experiencing more clarity and more peace of mind. And I did. I really did. It was like a weight was lifted. So it was, I would say, like every 6 months or so in my recovery process, there'd be like some sort of encounter, or even just an experience I had where I started really hearing Holy Spirit and knowing and being able to discern the difference. And at first, like, I literally thought I was maybe going crazy, but then I was like, well, no, because this isn't like bad crazy. It's good. So I guess not. I guess I'm really hearing it was beautiful. And now that things are more stabilized. Now actually is the time where I'm probably trying to discern. I feel like I need to turn my discerner up even more, because I'm not going through like that pain and desperation that I was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very clear. I could hear God very clear. But
Mm-hmm.
now I really have to turn off all the noise. I have to
Mm-hmm.
meditate for a while, just in other words, contemplative prayer, and just
Yeah.
sit for a while, and then I can hear, but there's a
Yeah.
lot going on in my life that's can be distracting sometimes. But yeah, that
Yeah.
was my
Yeah, that's
darkest.
true.
So now, yeah, so that was and that was back before my daughter is just turning 10 in a few days, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And this was back, I was thinking of the recovery time, 2000 and 2010. So quite a few years, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
One of the
44.
things, one of the things we like to talk about on Shine here is that not everybody has the same route to Jesus. Not everybody has the same route to clarity. Not everybody has the same circumstances surrounding themselves to get to where they are now. A lot of us have come from very dark and very scary places where we needed just a spark or just a shine or just something that gets us through to the next day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us have experienced those nights where it was just so dark and so cold that we didn't think we would make it through. And when we do make it through and we end up finding out more about what we're capable of, and we end up finding out people who believe in us and help us get through it, and then we start to build. In the moment when you're going through it, it's torture, it is pain, it is dark. But then once you're through it and you can look back on it, it's like, wow, I had no idea I could get through that. And I think a lot of that goes based on what you're saying about the neurodivergency and the way people think and our brains, how it deals with trauma and how it deals with coping.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do need, medicines to help deal with that coping. And some people do try to drown it out with substance abuse. And
Mm-hmm.
it, it's a very real feeling and a very real emotion. And
Mm.
I appreciate that you shared that.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope it's encouraging to people, never give up, and just
Yes.
keep
Yes.
keep prayer alive in your heart. Even if you're not saying the prayers out loud, you're not there yet. Like for a while I
Mm-hmm.
was like afraid to pray. I was afraid I would do it wrong. And like it's so silly now that I think of it. How silly is that? Like God's not judging your
Yeah.
prayers. Jesus said, "Don't be like the Pharisees doing these fancy big old prayers. Just pray, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." Like he
Uh-huh.
was just saying, like, be friends with God, be friendly with God,
Right.
open, and just let him in.
Exactly. Exactly. Like he's our best friend.
Yeah, yeah. The joy of the Lord is our strength.
Oh, amen.
So,
So throughout your life, I'm sure you've met a lot of people. You've gone and you've talked to a lot of people, having your podcast, you've had people on your show. In all of this randomness and all of this thing that you've learned, what's the best advice you've received?
I received. The best advice I received. Well, besides from the Lord, um, I think is just to not fear, not to live your life consumed by fear,
Mm,
but wrapped up in love and hope. So whenever
Mhm.
someone's quoted, now this could be quoted in any kind of religion. Actually, I've heard in Buddhism, Judaism, all different religions have some sort of glimmer of hope and love and what it means to be compassionate. But what I've really learned to take hold of is advice is something people give you from the bottom of their heart, like really trying to help you, but it's not always the well received, or it's not always what you need to hear. It's not always what you want to hear, and it's not always accurate. So
Mhm.
so always take what the advice is and bring it to the Lord, and ask the Lord to like give you more clarity on that. Because sometimes people, especially if we're neurodivergent and somebody has some advice for us, it can feel like criticism. It can feel like, oh, you should have done it this way, or you should do this,
Yeah.
or yeah, it can just feel like that. So just don't harp on those feelings, but just examine it and just sit with it. And it's very hard for especially racy minds like this, like to just sit still and just, why do I have to ponder on this, you know? But what usually happens when I'm sitting with these thoughts, is that Jesus just washes me clean, I guess. It's the only way to really explain it. And I don't know how to explain it to like someone who doesn't understand that verb, that Christianese, I guess. But it's like he purifies your thoughts. He kind of like he kind of just takes your thought, like Paul says, take every thought captive, bring it
Mhm.
to the Lord, just like let go, and not in your own strength. It's like our amount of letting go is like sort of comparing to like our faith, which is like a mustard seed, not even a mustard seed. So it's like not our faith or our letting go. It's actually Jesus's faith. It's God's faith that actually saves us, not our own. So the more, when someone has some piece of advice, whether it's oh, you know, get a divorce, or oh, you should get married, or you should have kids, you know, big things or little things like, oh, you should just make sure you set an alarm so you wake up on time in the morning and set your clocks backwards so that you could get to work on time, like stuff like that, little stuff or big stuff. Still just bring it to God, or you know, go into your, you know, your safe place, whatever that might be for you, and just listen to the spirit inside. What is the spirit saying, you know? And
Mhm.
is that are you going, is it going with that advice or against it? Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Mhm.
It makes complete sense.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
it
to add
does.
on to that, um, your relationship should also be like any relationship you have in your life, and you need to fully trust it. There's a lot of people that don't trust their feelings with
Yeah,
God, or they, like you said earlier, think it was crazy,
yeah,
or
sure.
if they are talking to themselves in their
Yeah,
mind, they're talking to Jesus, but then there is that little piece of you that's in the back of your mind, like, people think I'm crazy for thinking this. And we have to let all of that go, where we aren't being judged by our thoughts, and we aren't asking for specifics. Because what I've come to find out is if you ask God for money, He's not going to send you money. He's going to send you the ability to make money,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
or the ability to clarify things, so that way, why are you asking for money? Well, because I'm hungry. Well,
mm,
then I'll tell you what, this
mm,
moment you're going to figure out how to get some food so you can eat.
mm,
Or I need shelter, so that on this moment you're going to find somebody that's going to help you find shelter.
mm,
But then building upon that, it's not going to be just a one-time thing, because so many times people forget that I need it right now, yes, but you know, that saying that give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime,
Mhm.
proverb, is so much more than that. You've got to be able to see it for more and trust in that.
Yeah. And you know, one thing I always think about is that the Israelites, when they were wandering in the desert, God did not just rain down like you know, a whole year's worth of manna on them. It
yeah,
was every day, and they couldn't save it for the next day. They had to wait and get the new manna the next day. So he was just taking care of them, but just only enough for a day at a time. And
yeah.
sometimes that's what he does with us, and it really increases our faith, because every day we have to be, you know, aware of that and have faith that he's going to take us through that day and, you know, provide for us the next day.
It's beautiful. And with that, see, like, and then I think about like what people have said, like over the fires in LA and stuff. and all judgment and this and that. But like, we don't know that what God's doing there. He, in my opinion, I think he's like, you can humble hearts and not have, it's like his judgment is his love and his
Mhm.
encouragement and compassion for people. Even people that, you know, you might have a label them greedy, or you might label them selfish or self-consumed, or, oh, the celebrities, they're self-consumed. I mean, nobody knows what they're going through, you know, no one knows
Yeah.
but God. And so one of the things that I really had trouble with when I was in I was in like a Christian church. It was a while ago, but where they were like always like talking about other people and like judging them left and right. And
Mm.
it
Yeah.
just seems like not very biblical to do that.
It's not.
And
That's
people
not
are
it. That's
saying,
not.
oh, people in LA are being judged right now. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, that's not God's heart. God is
No.
all good and all knowing. And, you know, it's just his healing love is what brings life to this,
Mhm.
to the creation. It's not, and yeah, there's things that happen that are really unfortunate and really terrible. But I really truly don't believe that he's like kind of like letting it happen just so, you know, they can, I don't know, I don't know, maybe I won't say about that because it's theology, and I don't want to really get into like the whole theology that I believe in, but I just believe God is love. And
Well,
that
Feel free to get into it. You
uh,
know, I
what I'll
believe
say
I
is
God is
this.
love
believe,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe God is love and he's restoring all things is what I'm basically saying. So
I,
Yeah.
I will say this from my own opinions and beliefs on this is that I have been very disappointed in certain people of certain religions who are advocating that people deserve their houses to be burned down, or are judging based on how much money they have.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
terrible.
they're humans.
Hmm.
They are humans. They have feelings, they have thoughts, they have emotions, just like all of us do, and
Yeah,
they are going through the worst aspect of their life right now. And the last thing you want to do is throw judgment on these people of anything that has to do monetarily.
right,
Um,
right.
they're scared. They're, you know, people lived in these homes for years, for generations. They, everything about it is like, do not judge. Throw empathy, no matter where
Mm-hmm.
it's from. If it's hurricanes, fire,
Mm-hmm.
earthquakes, it doesn't matter. Through empathy, because God taught us to be empathetic towards people,
Mhm.
especially at their worst times in their lives.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Amen. Yeah, I agree.
So that was amazing advice. Um, from everything you've learned and all the books that you've written, what is the best advice that you can give?
Just keep seeking God with all your heart. Like Jesus said, love God, right? And love others. And if you don't know God or you think you don't know God, I would just say, just keep believing that first it goes like this: believe that I believe, right? Believe that these other people believe, right? I've heard this in AA one time. They say, if you don't believe, believe that I believe. You could take my
Uh-huh.
belief. and
Yeah.
and that's kind of what Jesus did, right? He came here to give us his
Uh-huh.
belief, because he believes so strong, he covers everything and
Yeah.
everyone. But if you know, it's a lot of people were hurt by religion. I have atheist friends, and
Yeah.
a lot of people were hurt by religion, man. It just seems like
Yes.
a lot of the people that I know that happen to be on that spectrum of it, like I mean, there's good people. There's nothing wrong, you know. Like, I just feel
Mhm.
like, oh man, in my opinion, you're missing out though. There's such an experience to be had by having a relationship with God.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say, like, just don't give up on hope. Like, if you think that this is it and there, you know, there's nothing after death, I don't know, just don't give up hope, and really seek the Lord. Ask him yourself. Ask, if you think you're talking to yourself, say, you know, make it clear, Lord, are you in there? Are you really here? Or are you
Mhm.
separate up in the sky waving a waving a lightning rod. No, that's Greek mythology, guys.
Right.
You know,
Right.
he's with us.
Right.
It's
Right.
not this
Yeah.
pagan god up in the sky. It's, you know, he's in you. Yeah, I mean, even Paul
Yeah.
said that to the pagans. So I would I like to quote scripture when I'm giving advice. Like, I don't know, just in him we live and move and have our being, right? You know, a lot of people don't always spread that, especially in Western evangelical. They don't spread that one as much. You hear John 3:16, you know, believe and you'll be saved. But even believing, like, we don't have enough belief to save ourselves. You know,
Yeah.
it's Jesus who saves. So just don't
Yeah.
compare yourself. I guess my advice, don't compare your experience with someone else's. You know, just
Absolutely.
live your life, be good. Jesus got you covered. Have grace for people because Jesus had grace for you. So yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that.
That's good.
You had made mention that you had fallen into addiction, and that kind of led from experiences and trauma from your past.
Mm-hmm.
We do have younger viewers that watch because we're children's books writers, and we do a lot of that. But if you can go back and you can give your younger self advice, what advice would you give to your younger self? But I want to prelude this. I want to prelude this because you can't go back. You can't change the past. But if you can offer advice to somebody younger who may have experienced something that you've experienced and can help them to better themselves without going into more trauma.
Okay. Yeah, I was just closing my eyes as you were speaking, and I just saw Jesus with me as a child. Just in my imagination, nothing crazy, guys, just my imagination, just seeing Jesus there with me as a child and just holding me. And the situation was, you know, at a bus stop getting picked on, you know, just this nothing super traumatic or anything, just a small moment in time when I was getting picked on because I was very short. So for whatever reason, I became a target. And just like thinking, oh man, is this it? Is this my life? People are just going to make fun of me my whole life, you know, because it was so constant. Um, but I wish I could tell my younger self that Jesus was with me this whole time. I wish I knew that. But okay, if it's not, I mean, I can't help it. I make everything about Jesus. But if you haven't encountered Jesus per se, I would just say, like, tell yourself that you are worthy, you are loved. You know, it says, you know, in the Bible, we are made in the perfect image and likeness of God. So anything that tells you otherwise about yourself is really a lie. So especially as kids, I mean, kids get so many negative, especially a neurodivergent child growing up. That's one of the reasons why neurodivergent kids get PTSD later in life, because you have like hundreds and thousands of more negative verbal accusations that are thrown at you throughout your life than a neurotypical. So because of that, you might experience anxiety or trauma. And that's why if you can get an early diagnosis of whatever is the underlying brain issue, it helps, because then you won't be diagnosed with something like anxiety, which is actually just a manifestation of the brain problem. So it's just interesting. I guess I would just say, like, trust God, love yourself, love others, and don't take anything too personal, you know, and just keep laughing and living life.
That's
Okay.
great advice even for now.
Yeah.
I sometimes need to hear that as well, but
Yeah.
I will say this: that is one of the best answers that anybody's ever given when posed with that question.
Oh. Well, I
So,
had to.
you've written a lot of books. Do you have plans to write another book?
I'm working on trusting the process. That's been a work in progress for the past 10 years.
It
So I'm
sounds
hoping.
like it's going to be a good one.
I hope so. Yeah. Yeah, it's just taking a while to finish. It's one of those that
Mhm.
keep putting it down and doing other things. I got a lot going on here with the kids. I
Yeah.
definitely putting them in front first and just making sure they're all taken care of. I think I told you guys that. That's sort of my
Yeah.
first priority, is making sure they're all taken care of with their needs. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
guys. If
important.
you don't know, I'm just referring to my cousins who needed help because their mother passed away, and so like
Uh-huh.
we're starting a GoFundMe to try to help them get on their feet.
Mhm.
So that's been very on the top of my mind all the time. But I do
Yeah.
say, like, I got these books. So this one is a true story of Santa Claus. I wrote this because when I was in Sunday school as a kid, I asked a lot of questions, and I almost got kicked out of Sunday school or something, like, for asking the question. But they did confirm me, though. I had a lot of questions. I was very analytical back then and persistent.
Uh-huh.
So anyone who's been persistent, I guess, probably obnoxious as a kid, you could relate to that. And then this one, Fearless Expressions, is, like I said, the poetry books, the poetry book that I wrote, and then Rainbow Wings is the children's book, almost like a ugly duckling kind of story with a good happy ending. But yeah, and then if you want, I would like to read something to you, if possible, a poem before we go.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
love poetry.
Absolutely.
Yay, I could read one. So I haven't really prepared which one, but there's a few in here that are pretty catchy. Let's see, maybe um, I'll do this one because it's fun. And this, mind you, was written in 2000. Oh, geez, now it says 2024, but that's not actually accurate. Hold on. This is the copy, but the first original, like when I actually wrote it, it should say here. I'm so curious now myself. Hold on. It says 2011. 2011 is when,
Oh,
like, I wrote this. So it's before Facebook and all that. So I think
yeah.
it's pretty interesting. It's a little bit prophetic here. All right, so it goes, question the feed. So caught up inside the feed, I think I forgot how to plant a seed. Screaming, shouting, all day reacting, making my ears bleep and bleed. Think it's too much? Are you tired enough? Sick of the arson's aching need, sick of stalking, haunting, taunting. Facebook's, iTunes, cyber games, email, where and when such a lonesome trail. Campfires, home cooking, and scary ghost tales. Real rock heroes that didn't involve a spaced out kid by the TV set, cradling that placebo guitar with multicolored buttons disguised as a fret. Our show's writing letters in fountain pen, not typing all alone in a dingy old den. Manual cameras and film in the park, developing pictures, enjoying the mysterious room of the dark. Picture hues manifest so natural and true. Now with Photoshop, our little Johnny can tell you just where to start. So remember where you came from the next time you're cruising the net, because you just never know when your mind gets spent. That
Very nice.
was like when
That's good.
Facebook was just starting, and I was
Uh-huh.
like,
I like that.
yeah.
Yes, you realized what was going to happen, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
One of the things that with the new year uh, at Soul Sunshine and me personally is, rather than doing resolutions, I change it to being gratitude, being grateful for things, and trying to figure out what am I grateful for, but then also being grateful for more things. Um, at this moment in time, what do you have gratitude for?
Well, I'm very grateful for my family and all the support, the network that I have here in our local community, our little church that we go to, a Pleasant Valley Methodist Church. And
Mhm.
that said, I don't like labels. I don't like any labels, even church labels. But I love my little church family. And yeah, I just love that we could connect with one another online as well. Like, I'm really grateful for just the broad extended family of like people I'm friends with from all over the country, all over the world. um
Mhm.
yeah, I have a friend in Australia I'm very grateful for, and I got to meet her at a Rethinking God with Tacos conference with Jason Clark
Wow.
and
Nice.
Brooke Watson. Yeah, Jason Clark and Brooke. Trying to think of the names of the guys who are running it, but yeah, Jason Clark has a really good podcast called Rethinking God with Tacos, and I went to the conference and I met some really amazing people. So just really
That's
grateful
cool.
for family and friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think God and tacos go together perfectly.
That's
I do
it.
too. I do too. I bet God likes tacos.
Who doesn't like tacos?
Yeah, really.
Tacos is
Absolutely.
like the universal everybody loves food.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yep.
Very nice. Well, I appreciate having you on the show. Before you go, is there anything you wish to share with our viewers about how they can get in contact with you, find out more about your books, and get educated on upcoming releases?
Sure. You can find me a link tree, has all my socials. Anissa Zucker is my name, and you could look me up anywhere. I would say mostly just stay away from SoundCloud because stuff I published back when I was addicted won't go away. It's still haunting me today. I'm just kidding. No, now everyone's gonna go there. I don't care. You can do whatever you want. No, I don't know. You find me on Facebook. I guess Facebook. Like I'm mostly involved in Kainos Joy Podcast Facebook group. It's a private like group that I definitely check that every day. And then I do put on some blogs on YouTube. I just partnered with YouTube. Woohoo!
Nice.
So I reached monetization level, which is
Uh-huh.
good. So
That's great.
50 cents here and there, but any little bit helps, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
but yeah, and most importantly, like if you have any desire to help a family in need who is grieving the loss of their mother, there's two girls that were watching over the weekends, and they could really use their support. They're also neurodivergent brains. They've just been through the ringer. At least pray for them. But if you do feel led to donate, you can find me and I'll send you the link. It's a GoFundMe link and I'll share it with you in a private message. Or you could look on my Facebook. I think I pinned the post on my page.
And we put your link tree into the post with the podcast.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And when we post this on the YouTube, it'll have links to all there as well.
Okay.
So
Thank
reach out to Anissa here, and be sure to follow her, like, comment, share everything.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing more of your interviews now that I got to know you a little more.
Yeah, it's great. You've been a really great guest. We really appreciate your openness.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love for you guys to come on our show too. So
We'd love to.
Yeah.
We're both authors, so we
Yeah.
always like to talk about our books.
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, we could definitely talk for hours, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We actually started this podcast because we wanted to have a platform for people who just wrote their books, new authors, published authors. It's kind of grown from what we initially wanted it to be, and we've had people on that share experiences, and we've had some amazing guests, and you've been fantastic. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
You're certainly very welcome. Hang out in our lobby for a few minutes, and we're going to wrap up the show.
Sounds good.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Whoop, there we go. Well, that was amazing.
Okay.
That was absolutely amazing.
She was so interesting.
Yeah.
Just great.
You and I were talking before the show about how religion has messed some people up. How judgmental things and things. It was amazing to hear that there are people that aren't taking the end all be all of one particular religious sect and saying this is how it is. Nobody else can think of whatever they want to think. And we're going to judge you if you don't think this way. Because I think that is the biggest turnoff from people on religion is that it has to be this way and no other way.
And I think more and more people nowadays are discovering that. I mean, I think there's a resurgence, in true belief, in a God that's real. And, people are, like you said, they're turned off on the traditional kinds of religions that just want to put God in a box and keep him safe on Sunday, and you don't really need him any other part of the week.
Exactly.
People don't like that. People are moving away from that. People are moving towards God. And I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we say every week, everybody comes to God in their own way. Everybody has their own journey. Yeah. Everybody has their own faith. Everybody has their own belief. And we don't always get there the same way. We're not always kids who grew up in church who every Sunday praise the Lord and then live their whole life in that way. We all have trauma. We all have difficulties. We all have parts where we will actually stop believing in God for a little while and have to come back to the faith and have to be rejuvenated.
Yeah.
It's always nice to hear people who have those experiences, and they're more believable. They're more heartfelt. They're more empathetic. And that's what I love about having this podcast.
Yeah. Me too.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us here, having your Sundays with us and enjoying another episode of Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement. We do have another episode next week, same time, same place. Thank you again for spending your Sunday evening with us, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful week.
Okay, we will.
Take care, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Ever dreamed of seeing your name on the cover of a book? As a book publisher, we understand the challenges of self-publishing. If you're lost in the process, wondering about illustrators, book coaches, or formatting issues, worry not. At Soul Sunshine, we're here to guide you. Let's turn your dream into reality. Contact us to get started.